Hi, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Today, we're talking about something that's become a bit of a quiet rebellion these days: rest. Not just sleep, not just a quick break, but proper, intentional rest. The kind that doesn't need permission or productivity attached to it.
It's funny, isn't it? We live in a world that glorifies being busy, constantly ticking boxes, staying on, always doing. And yet so many of us are running on empty, silently craving stillness, but feeling guilty for it.
Yeah. It's as if we've been taught that if we're not visibly productive, we're wasting time. But the truth is, rest is part of the rhythm. It's the breath between all the doing. It's not a weakness. It's a need.
And it's something you deserve, even when nothing dramatic has happened. You don't need to burn out to justify rest. You don't need a breakdown to slow down. Sometimes, being tired is enough of a reason.
Rest doesn't have to be earned. You're allowed to take a moment. To log off. To be still. And it doesn't make you lazy or unmotivated, it makes you human.
It's wild how many people feel ashamed for taking a quiet day. Like if you're not constantly achieving something, you're falling behind. But maybe the real danger is ignoring that quiet voice inside that says, I need a pause.
And rest can look different for everyone. For some, it's solitude. For others, it's music, reading, tea on the sofa, or just lying there without needing to explain why. Whatever it is, it's valid. It's yours.
Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is step away from the noise and say, this moment is for me. Not to perform. Not to prove. Just to be.
There's this quiet kind of wisdom in people who rest without guilt. Who don't need to make a big deal of it. They just know, today, I don't have it in me. And that's okay.
Exactly. And the thing is, rest doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're giving your body and mind space to breathe. It's like letting the soil recover before planting again. You can't keep forcing growth non-stop.
I think a lot of us forget that even machines aren't made to run constantly. They overheat, break down, need maintenance. And yet, we expect ourselves to keep going, no matter what.
And then we wonder why we feel so disconnected. So numb. It's not that we've failed, it's just that we haven't stopped long enough to notice what we really need. We're too used to sprinting through everything.
Sometimes I think the most powerful thing you can do is just turn off your phone for a bit. Step away from the pressure to be reachable, likable, available, all the time.
Yes, because even presence can become performative if you never rest. If you're always on, you start living for the outside world and forget how to tune inwards. That's when burnout sneaks in, disguised as ambition.
And real rest isn't scrolling or numbing out. It's doing something that restores you, even if that's doing absolutely nothing. It's being quiet, gentle, and demanding with yourself.
Which can be so hard, can't it? Especially if you've attached your self-worth to being useful or productive. Rest challenges that. It says, you're worthy even when you're not producing anything.
And once you accept that, things start to shift. You begin to find peace not in what you do, but in who you are. Not in how much you've ticked off a list, but in how softly you're showing up for yourself.
And when you start honoring that kind of rest, even in small ways, you realize how much noise you were carrying. Not just physical exhaustion, but the mental clutter too: pressure, expectations, constant comparison.
It's like suddenly giving yourself permission to exist without having to explain or perform. And you begin to notice the little things again. The way the light falls through the window, the comfort of silence, the feeling of not rushing.
Yes. And sometimes the most healing days are the ones where nothing happens. You stay home, maybe read a bit, let the day unfold slowly. No timeline. No pressure. Just allowing yourself to be fully present in the pause.
I think more of us need that space where we don't have to be brilliant or busy or brave. Just there. Just human. And that's enough.
And the beauty of rest is that it doesn't demand anything fancy. You don't have to go on a retreat or book a holiday. Sometimes it's just choosing to sit still with a warm cup of tea and deciding that today, that's more than enough.
You know, rest isn't the opposite of growth. It's part of it. Nothing sustainable ever grows without stillness built in. Even nature pauses. Even the earth takes its seasons.
And we forget we're part of that same rhythm. We're not separate from it. We need winter. We need quiet. We need softness. Growth isn't always loud.
Exactly. Sometimes the most transformative changes happen when no one's watching, when we're in those unseen, uncelebrated moments of care. That's when we're learning how to live a gentler life.
I think that's something we forget, especially with how visible everything has become. Social media, work chats, even hobbies, it's all so public now. And when everything's shared, resting can feel like you're falling behind while everyone else is still going.
Yes, and that's where the danger creeps in. Because you start comparing your rest to someone else's highlight reel. You feel guilty for slowing down while others seem to be accelerating. But what you're not seeing is their off-camera moments, their quiet breakdowns, their own silent pauses.
And you know what's strange? Sometimes it takes more strength to rest than it does to keep going. Anyone can push themselves to exhaustion, but to stop, to truly say, I'm putting myself first today, that takes awareness, self-respect, even courage.
Absolutely. We've built this culture where burnout is worn like a badge. Where being tired is almost proof that you're working hard enough. But honestly, being constantly exhausted isn't impressive, it's a sign something needs to change.
And the longer we ignore those signals, the louder they get. Until your body, your mind, your heart, they all start whispering, then shouting, please slow down.
What we really need is a shift in mindset. From rest is a reward to rest is a rhythm. From rest means I'm falling behind to rest is how I keep going. It's not time lost, it's time invested in your future self.
And when you begin to treat rest like that, everything changes. You start to show up differently, not just for yourself, but for others too. You listen more deeply, you respond with more patience, you stop running on empty.
Because a well-rested version of you is more present, more grounded, more honest. And that's the version the world really needs, not the worn-out one just trying to keep up.
It's interesting, really, how often we underestimate the value of simply being. Just being there, not producing, not performing, not trying to impress anyone. There's a quiet dignity in that. A kind of self-trust.
Yes, like learning to be enough, even in your stillness. I think so many people are afraid of those slower days, worried they'll lose momentum or be forgotten. But honestly, no one's keeping score the way you think they are.
And the people who truly matter won't measure you by how busy you are. They'll care about how you feel, whether you're well, whether your smile reaches your eyes. Not how packed your calendar is.
I once heard someone say, the point of life isn't to be the most efficient machine, it's to be alive in it. That stuck with me. Because being constantly productive doesn't always mean you're truly living.
No, it doesn't. Sometimes the best parts of life are the slowest, lying in bed a little longer, taking an aimless walk, calling someone just to talk with no agenda. That's real life too. Not just the high-achieving moments.
And the beautiful thing is, rest doesn't ask you to prove anything. It just invites you to listen, to your body, your mind, your heart. To trust that you're allowed to pause and still be worthy.
If anything, the pause gives you space to remember who you are underneath all the busyness. You reconnect with what matters to you, not what the world demands.
And maybe, just maybe, that version of you, the rested, reflective, grounded one, is the one that's most aligned with the life you're actually meant to live.
And sometimes it's in those quiet pauses that the most honest thoughts rise to the surface. You notice what's been bothering you, what you've been avoiding, what you truly miss. Stillness makes space for truth.
That's such an important point. When you're always in motion, you don't really have time to process anything. You just keep going. But when you stop, even briefly, it's like you're finally able to hear yourself again.
Exactly. You notice what feels heavy. You recognize which parts of your life feel out of alignment. And that awareness, it's the beginning of change. It doesn't always happen in the hustle, it starts in the pause.
And yet we often treat those pauses like weakness. We apologize for resting, as if we've done something wrong by taking care of ourselves.
But you shouldn't have to earn your rest. You're not a machine that has to break down before it's allowed to recharge. You can choose rest before the burnout. You can choose it because you deserve to feel well, not just survive.
That shift in perspective is everything. Rest becomes an act of self-respect, not self-indulgence. It's saying, I matter enough to slow down. And that's powerful.
And when you start honoring your limits, your world doesn't shrink, it expands. You start noticing more, connecting more deeply, choosing more wisely. Rest doesn't take you away from life, it brings you closer to it.
Beautifully said. It's not about stepping away forever. It's just about remembering you don't always have to be on to have worth. You can be still. You can be soft. You can simply be, and that's enough.
You know, I think some of us are just so used to performing, at work, in friendships, even with ourselves, that we forget who we are when we're not trying to meet a standard.
Yeah, when the pressure to perform drops, what's left is the real you. And that version, without the filters, without the schedule, is the one that needs the most care. That's the version we've got to come back to again and again.
And maybe that's the whole point of rest. Not just recovery from fatigue, but reconnect with your own humanity. Your softness. Your real priorities, not the ones society constantly pushes at you.
Right. It's like, in stillness, your values have room to speak. You get to ask, am I living in a way that feels true? Or am I just trying to keep up with a life that was never mine to begin with?
That question hits deep. Because often we don't realize how disconnected we've become until we stop. Until we step back and say, wait, is this actually working for me?
And sometimes the answer's no. And that's okay. That's where things begin to shift, not with more noise, but with a quiet moment of honesty. A slow breath. A decision to move differently, even if no one else understands it.
That's where real peace comes from, isn't it? When you stop needing to justify your pace, your energy, your choices. You're just living in alignment with yourself, even if it looks slower or smaller on the outside.
But more whole on the inside. And I think that's the kind of life worth building, one that honors your rest just as much as your drive.
And I think a lot of the guilt we feel around resting, it doesn't actually come from us. It's been taught. Conditioned. Somewhere along the line, we started believing that doing more makes us better people.
Yes. As if our value is directly tied to how much we achieve or how much we produce. But that's not where our worth lies. It never was.
And the more we begin to question that belief, the freer we become. Because once you stop equating your worth with your output, you realize, you don't have to chase so hard anymore. You can breathe.
And when you start to breathe, you notice beauty again. The little things. The sun on your face. A quiet moment with someone you love. Those moments don't require you to be on. They just ask you to be present.
It's funny, isn't it? The moments that matter most often come when you're not trying at all. Not pushing. Not proving. Just being.
And I think the more we practice that, just being, the easier it becomes to trust that we're enough, even in our quiet, unproductive hours.
Yes. Because rest isn't wasted time. It's essential time. Time that holds space for healing, for clarity, for softness. For the parts of us that don't speak in urgency, but in gentleness.
And we owe it to ourselves to listen to those parts more often. To make space for rest without guilt. To believe that peace is just as worthy a pursuit as success.
And the more we honor that, our need for slowness, for stillness, the more we begin to redefine what a meaningful life actually looks like. It's not always about momentum. Sometimes it's about depth.
That's a powerful thought. Because depth doesn't come from speed or output. It comes from presence. From noticing what's here, instead of always reaching for what's next.
And that presence, it invites us to see ourselves clearly again. Not through a lens of productivity, but through one of compassion. Of softness. We stop asking, "What did I do today?" and start asking, "How did I feel today?"
It's a different kind of progress, isn't it? One that's harder to measure, but far more honest. You're not ticking boxes, you're tending to your actual life. Your body. Your mind. Your emotions.
And that takes courage. In a world that rewards constant output, choosing rest can feel radical. Almost rebellious. But maybe that's exactly what we need, less noise, more nourishment.
Absolutely. Because you can't hear your own truth if you never stop to listen. And rest gives you that silence. That sacred pause where everything has space to settle.
And in that space, you can remember, you're not here to burn out. You're here to live. To feel. To move at a pace that honors your heart, not just your deadlines.
You don't have to be on all the time to be valuable. You don't have to be constantly improving to be enough. You already are.
So wherever you are right now, whether you're in the middle of a busy season, or slowly learning how to slow down, we just want to remind you that your worth isn't tied to your pace.
You're allowed to rest. To breathe. To step away without explanation. Because rest isn't stepping back, it's coming home to yourself.
Thank you for sharing this quiet space with us today. And if no one's told you lately, you're doing just fine, even on the days when you're not on.
This has been the British Accent Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Take gentle care of yourself.